Hi, everybody. Welcome to Busy Living Sober. Busy Living Sober. Busy Living Sober.
Wow. Hi, Bizzy. You're really working on that delivery. It's pretty nice now.
I'm into it. I'm into my song.
Mm-hmm.
I think I need to get a songwriter, though. Like maybe have some music jingle to go with it. Wouldn't that be fun? I used to have a jingle because I used to do this in a different way. I wasn't doing it on Zoom or anything, and I was using a different platform. But anyway, not to digress.
Why don't you learn how to play a fiddle? You could do it yourself.
There you go. Learn how to play the fiddle.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about learning. So we are here today on episode 201. 201 episodes.
Wow.
It's
That's 100. That's 100 more than Dalmatians that woman had, right?
Yeah, she had 101 Dalmatians. We have 201 podcasts. Here we are. And a friend of mine, and I'm not going to, maybe I'll say her name. My friend Shelly said, why don't you do one on back to basics?
Mm-hmm.
Getting back to basics. So on 200, I talked about acceptance and all that. And then we go back to, if we're talking about basics, like basics of anything.
So we're talking about basics of busy living sober?
No, the basics of staying sober.
Oh, okay.
The basics of staying sober.
Well, the most basic one is like, don't drink and don't use drugs.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Can't get much more basic than that.
That's one of your favorites, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Works.
What is your favorite saying?
It really works.
Say what your favorite saying is.
If you don't drink, you can't get drunk.
If you don't drink, you can't get drunk. And that was like when you heard those words. When was that?
That was a long time ago. And the guy was right. Yeah, I had no idea. I never thought of that before. But he was absolutely right.
It's simple, isn't it?
Well, he's just right. If you don't drink, you can't get drunk. It's so simple. Totally makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So if you think your problem is getting drunk, just try not drinking and see what happens.
That's pretty easy.
Yeah. If you think your problem is getting stoned, try not smoking and see what happens.
And if your problem is doing other drugs.
Yeah, exactly.
Try not doing it.
And see what happens.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we aren't saying that if you have been drinking a long time, not to go talk to your doctor, because we do believe that it's important to talk to your doctor. Because if you cut out doing something, you've been doing it for too long or whatever, your body could have major repercussions. So we do want to put that little caveat out there that if you've been drinking a lot and you start to tremor or start to shake, you might want to like slowly back off.
Well, it can't. The statement came to me in the context of for myself, I always felt like my problem was more a problem of control than anything else. And so I really thought if I could just control it the right way, that everything would be fine, but it kept getting out of control and it was never fine. So what happened was, consequences piled on. Well, I ended up actually not drinking for a while, not intending to not drink, not intending to stop, but that's just the way circumstances got me. And then I heard this guy say, if you don't drink, you can't get drunk. And I realized like, oh my God, he's so right. I've not been drunk since I stopped drinking, it had been a few months. And I realized I hadn't been drunk. I hadn't been in trouble. Nobody was mad at me. All these good things were happening that were relatively simple. And, it was one of the greatest things I heard in my life. It totally made sense. It was the one thing in all my issues of trying to control things that I had never actually thought of. I never actually thought of just not doing it. I just always thought I just needed to do it a different way. And
drink, different drink, right?
Right. So in my mind, I was doing it differently every time, but I still kept getting the same results. It was very confusing. Very confusing.
It didn't matter if it was beer, if it was wine.
It didn't matter what it was, where I was, who I was with, what time it was. It just didn't matter because it always seemed to end up pretty much the same way.
Because drinking, fortunately, it's one of my favorite sayings. One of my favorite sayings is once you're a pickle, you can't become a cucumber again.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I think that's deep, but that's true.
It is.
Exactly.
It's like once you've gone past that place of going, oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore because I've tried to do it all these other ways. Like I've tried to go out and say, I'm only going to drink one dirty martini. Well, that never worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
I tried so many times. I'm just going to have one. But the problem is that when I had one sip, it was like, forget it. I was off to the races. It's like, because it's an allergy, right? We believe it's an allergy.
Right.
So if it's an allergy, and once you drink it, the allergy becomes, I think it's like
It turns into craving.
it turns into craving.
Hmm.
I want
Yeah,
more. I want more. I want more.
exactly.
Yeah, and it's hard.
Though it's impossible,
Yeah,
because once that starts for me anyway, it's just, like I say, it always ends up bad. I never could understand why. I could never figure out what I was doing wrong.
and it was just the drinking.
It was just the drinking. That was so simple. I made it so difficult, so complicated.
Well, we like to complicate things, don't we?
Absolutely.
It's like our job.
Hmm.
It's like if we can make it harder, we will.
Pretty much.
Which doesn't make any sense, really, does it? It's like it doesn't make one bit of sense whatsoever.
Uh-huh.
But we do it, and it's like, oh, So when we talk about back to basics, like what are the basics? Like for some reason, I keep thinking when we read, we begin with ABC. When we sing, we begin with do, re, mi. And that, I love Sound of Music. It's one of my favorite movies, just not to digress. But, it's when you begin to do this, it's like, do it one day at a time. Some people are like, one day at a time, that's hard, right?
It seems very manageable though.
Yeah, because you're up for how many hours? 18 maybe?
Yeah, but it's not only that. Like if somebody had said to me, well, you need to never drink again. That's a really long time. And you tell the story best. I mean, you had all these plans of things that you were going to be like definitely be drinking for that were going to happen well off into the future. And never again seems like a very long time. But the basics for me was that I was just instructed, okay, you're just don't drink today. If you feel like drinking, do it tomorrow, but just don't do it today. And so I could be like, okay, I can do this for a day. I can get through today. And if I want to, I'll just do it tomorrow. And, the nice thing is that tomorrow is always tomorrow. So that's a really good day to plan on doing something dangerous because you never actually get there,
Yeah.
since you're always in today. So I like that. That was always very helpful to me. One day at a time I didn't understand the concept, but it was very helpful.
It wasn't I know a lot of people that have long-term recovery like you do with many decades, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they say, I'm not going to drink today, but if I do get squirrely, because let's face it, right now during COVID, I think we're all like, for one, I think we're all kind of sick of this, right? It's like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this. We can't go outside. I have to wear this mask. It's uncomfortable, yada, 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 yada. And how am I going to do this anymore? And it's just like, when is that going to be over? And when am I going to be able to do what I want to do again? And it's like learning for me, the cha-cha, it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was going to say that the people that say that have many, many decades of being sober, they always say, you know what, I've had a really tough day. This has been really hard. This COVID is really challenging because it has a lot of challenges. And I'm just know this, I just am not going to drink, before midnight tonight. And then tomorrow I'm going to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't drink before midnight again. And then you're like, oh, midnight, that's the start of a new day. So if you don't drink up to midnight, then a whole new day starts. You don't have to drink again the next day.
And the best part is for most of those people, like myself included, if you say you're going to hang up until midnight, it doesn't matter because you go to bed way before midnight anyhow. So
it's the crazy thing is how early do we go to bed now?
I
We
guess,
get much better sleep than we ever did.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm not out carousing.
No, neither of us are. And so, the basic, so that's the first basic is not drinking one day at a time. And I believe because alcohol is a spirit, they never, talk about it. But if you go to a liquor store, it's called spirits, right? If you go, we serve spirits. That's
right. It says fine wine and good spirits. Fine
wine and good spirits. And spirit is a, it doesn't, a spirit is having a spiritual experience. And a spiritual experience for me might not be a burning bush or a neon light saying going this way, but it's something that I see that works. Like I see and I like to call my higher power God, but I think it's really important to identify whatever that is. And if you don't want it to be God because you don't believe in God, because religious things growing up, I think there's a difference between religion and spirituality.
Well, yes, definitely. There's no, there's no, uh, none of the pomp and circumstance and all that stuff around spirituality. I
No,
think it's a very individual thing.
it's totally personal.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally personal. And to talk about it to other people, and I think it's difficult for a lot of people to talk about it because it is something that's so personal, and there's not, like, it's not easy to pick out an adjective or verb to say this is what spirituality is to me, right? It's difficult, but I think that it's important to have some sort of spiritual something, because it has to replace the spirit of the alcohol. So, right? So you need something spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is going to be a fun thing to talk about. I just thought about this because we were raised differently, right? Totally.
Yes.
In terms of the church. So, in terms of different things as well. But the one thing is, spiritually, I was raised going to church. My father's Jewish, my mother's Irish Catholic, goes to church. And I was raised going to church every Sunday. And I was raised with that, being a little girl looking up at the cross with Jesus like nailed to the cross, and it was very scary.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I decided to when I was done with drinking and it was time to find something spiritual outside of myself, I had a sense of God. Now, was it necessarily that Jesus on the cross? Not so much as it was that I knew that I wasn't alone. Like, I was raised knowing that you weren't alone. Like, it was always, that was what they talked about at church all the time. Like, you're not alone, you're not alone, you're not alone. So I felt like, I don't know if it gave me a leg up or what it did, but it definitely gave me the sense that, okay, if I have to replace my spirits of alcohol with spirit, I can go for God. That works for me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you, on the other hand, weren't raised with any religion, right?
No, not really, no.
Did you ever go to church?
Went to church when I was a little boy. Went to Bryn Mawr Pres.
And how long
Bryn Mawr
did you
Pres
go?
was like a dark, scary place to go to.
Was it scary?
Oh, it's so dark in there. It's not cheery, that's for sure.
And what ages did you go?
When I was little, up until like about 4 years old, maybe 5 years old.
So when you went, did you have a sense like, okay, so you're like, this is a scary place, or were you excited to go to church growing up?
I was always happy to go because it was like I went with my mom. It was a nice time. I got to spend morning with my mother, and I'd probably see, depending on when it was, I might see my grandmother or my grandfather there, and depending on when it was, then we might go have, like breakfast at my grandmother's house afterwards. So it was nice.
It was nice. So when you decided that, almost 23 years ago, it's almost 23 years, like we're almost there.
22, yes, almost 22.
Almost 22. I always want to make him a year older and a year more sobriety. So the truth. 22 years is happening in very soon, very soon.
Mm-hmm.
And so at this time, 22 years ago, you were drinking.
Yes, I was. Plenty of spirits. Mm-hmm.
Plenty of spirits. And when you think back to that talk, and we're going to definitely have you on when we get closer to the date, or on the date, because I don't know what day it is of the week it is. Do you?
No.
I don't know either. We're about a month away,
right.
A little less than a month away. So back to going to church. So you went to church. You didn't stop going to church at 4.5, 5. And then you come in here 22 years ago, a little bit, and some change, less than 22 years ago, like 21 years and whatever, and 11 months ago. And you were introduced, you decided to go to a 12-step meeting because it was recommended highly because you were dealing with some circumstances that mitigated the fact that you needed to go you needed to do, for lack of a better word, get out of jail free card. And so you wanted to get out of jail free card. So somebody said you should really check out a 12-step meeting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they talked about this higher power, and they talked about finding a higher power and getting, something bigger than yourself, something spiritual, right? Something spiritual. And how did that feel to someone that hadn't been in a church in I'm not gonna.
Well, it was
30.
It was
years,
very overwhelming. Because I didn't understand the concept of it all, but I was lucky because I fell in, with some guys that really kept it simple. And I needed that simplicity. So, so you say their first message was, just don't drink, and you'll be fine. And, and in regards to all the other stuff in early sobriety, what they really told me was, honestly, was that it doesn't matter how you feel or what you're feeling. And it doesn't matter what you're thinking. It only matters what you do. And they kept it really simple for me. So the only thing you're going to do is just not drink for today. And that was a simple message. And the rest will come. They never told me that, but that they knew it, and that's what happened. So, it was a while before I got to that point of seeking some sort of relationship with God, and really, I guess I am, a fairly intellectual person. And, so, just what always interested me was philosophy and, and some different ideas on religion. So I had read, especially in Western philosophy, I had read a lot of philosophy, and a lot of philosophers are fairly spiritual. Some aren't, but a lot are. And it's interesting to me because like the ones that aren't spiritual were the ones that I was attracted to as a youngster. But then when I got older, this is still while I was drinking, but as I got out of my 20s into my 30s, I became much more attracted to the ones that had like this conception of God, that there was good, that there was meaning in life, and I was looking for that. So I was open and receptive to having this, finding this and having this connection. I had been a seeker of some sort for most of my life. So it was nice I ended up in a 12-step meeting in a 12-step program, because they make it easier for the seeker to find, because all they really tell you is that you just have to be willing to seek. And if you're willing to seek, that's it. You're done. You've accomplished what you need to accomplish. It's that willingness. So, in the realm of like back to basics and keep it simple, really the most important thing for me in all that process was to be able to finally think to myself, maybe somebody else has a better idea than I do. And, and that was that little seed of willingness, and that's the key. The couple of things they taught me early were, they always said a grateful alcoholic will not drink. Well,
sorry. Oh my gosh. Sorry, people. I don't know what's happening. We're going to just get this decline. Sorry about that.
So, and I said, okay, well, in early sobriety, it's like, well, I don't want to be grateful. I'm miserable. How could I possibly be grateful? And they say, well, it's really easy. The way you are grateful is just to be grateful. Just be thankful for what you have. And they were right, and it was true. So that's that's a real basic thing for me.
That gratitude.
It's don't drink, be grateful. Whether you have a higher power or not, it doesn't matter. Whether you believe or not, whatever you think doesn't matter. However you feel doesn't matter. But what does matter is that you can every morning ask the higher power to keep you sober for another day, whether you believe it or not. You just do it.
So when you say
at the end of the day, thank the higher power for keeping you sober for one more day, whether you believe it or not. You just do it.
So when you say just do it, will you explain in more layman terms, like go even like what, so just tell us what that looks like so we can give the people the free visual with our words.
Sure. So I had, when I was early in the program, I had this sponsor, Pete, and Pete was trying to help me out, and he had his hands full. I'll tell you that. Thanks, Pete. I think about Pete almost every day. And Pete asked me, do you pray? And I said, no. And he was such a smart guy. Instead of saying, why not? He said, do you think it would hurt you? And I said, well, no, I don't think it would hurt me. And he said, well, then this is what you're going to do is you're going to get up in the morning, and in whatever fashion it is, you're going to pray, and you're going to ask this higher power to keep you sober one more day. And at the end of the day, in whatever fashion you do it, I don't care. You're going to pray, and you're going to thank that higher power for keeping you sober just for today. Whether you believe it or not, doesn't matter. It's just what you do.
Yeah. So it doesn't even matter. It really, we think that we think that it has to be something momentous. At least I did. I was like, this has to be completely momentous. It has to be like, do you get an altar out? Like, do I get on my knees? I know a lot of people do get on their knees and get out of bed and get on their knees. They say, throw your car keys under your bed. So then you have to climb under your bed and get on your knees to get your car keys. I never did that. Mm-hmm. I've never been a get on my knees person. I know he isn't either, because I've never seen you do that. But taking the time to just take just even a second and lay in bed and just say, God, that's what I've always done.
Right. And like you said at the beginning of this, as a group of people, we can complicate anything.
Right.
So like left to my own devices, I would have complicated to the point. And that's what I do. I complicate things to the point where I never even get started, because I put so many hoops and hurdles on, what I have to do. And this guy just said, it doesn't matter. You just do it.
Yeah.
And he was right. I mean, it's worked. So it's been almost 22 years and it works.
So that's a basic thing. God, right. Please keep me sober in the morning and at night. Thank you for keeping me sober.
And I didn't for an instant believe that, that God was listening to me. I didn't believe it. And I'm like, why would he? He's busy. He's like got a whole universe to run. I didn't believe it for an instant, but I just did it anyway. And I've been doing it for a long, long time. And, now it's funny. Now I do believe that God is listening to me. And he's probably like, this fucking guy's so boring. Jesus. He says the same thing every morning.
We're boring.
He says the same thing every morning. He says the same thing every night. He never changes. And, but your
relationship and the religious piece has also changed, hasn't it?
Well, the whole thing's changed because I got in the habit of doing this, and, and I was willing to believe that maybe somebody else had a better answer than I did. So, as it says in the literature, just the willingness is all I have to do. The door is cracked open. There's no hoops to jump through, but what I find is, after time that I have a real higher power called God in my life that I really do count on and, and depend on. And, and it's a great relationship. It's something that I really value. And it's not something that if you had told like 22 years ago, I would have said, that's never going to happen. There's no way.
So we have the basics. We have two basics. First, don't drink. Don't pick up a drink.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, say some sort of prayer to whatever it is, even if you don't believe in it, just say it. Please help me stay sober. And what would be...
Wait, let's not forget, and be grateful.
And be grateful. Is that our third? Be grateful?
Sure, absolutely.
Being grateful is
huge. I mean, if they say a grateful alcoholic will not drink, so why wouldn't you want to be grateful?
And so what do you do with gratitude? Because I know what I used to do when I was back at basics, and I haven't done it in a long time. I mean, sometimes I've done it, but I ebb and flow. I don't do it as much as I used to do it, which is writing a gratitude list. Do you do that still?
No, but I have somebody that I pray with every morning, and part of our prayer is expressing our gratitude for all the great things that we have.
Amazing things.
Mm-hmm.
It is. I just always like to, I probably am taking it to not to a basic thing because I do this thing where I meditate and I just say this prayer that's like, God, please, speak through me today. Please show me what you want me to do today. Not what Elizabeth wants to do, but what you want me to do to be of service to you, God.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And that's very helpful.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah. So the gratitude can be gratitude that, I have hearing. I am grateful I can see. I'm grateful I can taste. I can't smell, so I can't be grateful for not for smelling. But, it's basic things. I have a roof over my head. I had a meal today. I have water in my sink. Whatever those things are, it can be very, very, very simple because a lot of people in the world don't even have that clean water to go to.
No. So we always say, how grateful am I that I wake up, it's dark, and I don't even think about it. I flick a switch and it's light. A lot of people in the world don't have that.
Yeah, we're so lucky.
I'm hungry. I walk downstairs and there's food in the refrigerator.
Sometimes.
Always, So there's so much to be grateful for.
There is so much to be
there really
grateful
is,
for.
and it's not hard, and it's just something that you do. And when I was struggling with it for a while, I did do a list for about a year. Every morning, I had to text or I had to email to my sponsor 5 things that I didn't want in my life. He said, you have to be grateful for everything in your life, whether you want it or not, because, God put it there for a reason. So I'd have to, 5 things I didn't want in my life that I'd be grateful for. And it's crazy stuff, like the car wouldn't start, right? Well, I need to be grateful for that. Well, and then it brings up this whole thing of why would I be grateful for that? He says, how do you know that if that car had started, that you wouldn't have driven out of your road and been hit by a truck and killed? You have no idea. So by that car not starting, maybe, the higher power may have decided to keep you around for a little bit longer. You just have no idea. When I think about that, I'm like, he could be right. I should be grateful.
Yeah.
I mean, I should, if nothing else, I should be grateful that I have a car, whether it starts or not. Right.
At least it's sitting there.
But you know what I mean? Is just, I don't know.
None of us know.
I don't know why. And his point to me was, you don't really know what's good or bad. Because if you look at the history of your life, there'll be things that while they were happening, you thought they were great. And when you look back, they weren't that great. And more likely, there'll be things in your life that you thought were terrible. Like for me, one of the most terrible things I had to do was stop drinking. Then when I look back, it turned out to be a wonderful thing. So I really don't know, what's good or what's bad. And I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know why things happen, so it's not for me to judge, and I should just be grateful that I'm in God's world, really.
So,
and that was his point. That's gratitude.
You live gratitude. So you live the basics still, even though you have 21 years and 11 months of sobriety.
Well, it's the same thing I've done every day for those years that has worked. I mean, those are the things that have worked. I mean, there's a lot more that I have done. There's a lot more that I can do, and a lot more is always nice. But at the end of the day, I've always heard it said, it's like, whatever happened today, if you didn't drink, it was a good day, right? So at the end of the day, that's what I'm looking for. So sometimes it's a better day, sometimes it's a good day.
We aren't even a good judge if it's a good day anyway.
It's just a good day. I mean, it's worked for me for a long time, and it is the basics. And I met other people that it worked for them, and now it works for me, and hopefully I pass it on to some people that it works for them, because it works. It does work. And the only thing I know is that if I don't drink and I don't do drugs, and I have that willingness that I talked about, like ever so slowly, I change and I become different. And the way I see that in my life is that life becomes, it becomes, for me, less difficult. It becomes less rancorous. It just becomes easier. I don't care about as many things as I used to care about. I just kind of want to go with the flow. And, but it's taken a long time to get there, and I just have to be willing.
It's just willing. It's just willing.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
Thanks so much.
Sure.
For talking about the basics with me.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
On episode 201. Crazy.
Isn't it?
It's crazy. 201 episodes. Well, if you're out there and you're listening, please reach out with questions, comments to Bizzy, B-I-Z-Z-Y, at BizzyLivingSober.com. And, you can always find us on Spotify. We have a YouTube channel. So if you're listening and you've never seen us, you can go watch us on YouTube. It's called Bizzy Living Sober. And life is amazing today. And these gifts that we have that are just beyond our wildest dreams are just amazing. Amazing. Lucky girl. I'm a lucky girl. Thank you so much. All right, everybody.
You, Bizzy.
Thank you. Well, until next time, what are we going to say?
Let's get.
No. Until next time, keep getting busy living sober. Bye-bye.